All right, what it do, everybody? It's your boy LOG from Where There's Smoke. Sorry for being late, as usual. and usually I get in here and talk about how I need to be
All right,
streaming more
what
and
it
all
do,
that, but
everybody?
I'm
It's
just
your
gonna
boy
skip
LOG from Where There's
the
Smoke.
BS. And sorry for being late,
Hold on.
as usual. and I'm gonna check the audio and video, and the audio on YouTube sounds good, and then we'll get into it.
Hold on.
As usual. and
Okay, yeah.
let's see, Rumble.
Okay, yeah.
Rumble sounds good.
Rumble.
Kick. Test,
Rumble
test, test.
sounds Rumble.
Kick. Cool. And we should be good to go. All right. Rumble sounds good.
Rumble.
Kick. Test,
Rumble
test,
sounds
test. Good.
Rumble.
Kick. All right. So today, if y'all didn't check out the title, we're gonna be reacting to this topic that I've actually floated this thought out there a number of times. I don't know if anyone's seen the different podcasts or discussions where I've thrown this out, but I don't believe that Elon is a genius. I was gonna go into this whole thing, but that's the long and short of it. I don't really believe it. I think it's more or less a character. And anyway, we're gonna see what these guys have to say about it. Maybe some new angles that I agree with or disagree with, or new perspectives will be brought up, and we'll give our commentary as we go, per usual. So, as always, I don't have the Rumble chat loaded because no one ever chats anyway. But you know what? Let me not be lazy. It's not that hard to get it. Let's see. Pop out. Copy. Pop in. Put it in put the lime in the coconut. Looking nice. And all right. All right, cool. We're vibing. All right. Let's get into it.
Showing us how fraudulent
Haven't seen this yet, so I'm gonna be
he
totally
is.
fresh to this.
To Middle Ground. I'm Ryan, your host. On this side, we have people who are pro-Musk, and on this side, people who are anti-Musk. The first prompt is, Elon Musk is a genius. Let's have the agreeers step forward.
By the way, Jubilee's got to be one of the platforms that I don't know how old they are. Let's see. But I was just gonna say one of the platforms that I really enjoy, and I love to discuss topics and get different point of views, and maybe not debates, but discussions. And I don't mind a good debate either, although I've never been in an official debate, but more or less discussions. But I enjoy good discussions, good debates where people flesh out ideas and talk about stuff. So I love that kind of stuff. So with all this stuff of even though the red pill channels are red pill, they still have somewhat of a discussion to them and sometimes debates. But I love the Andrew Wilson debate stuff. And I guess what I'm trying to say is now more than ever with the internet and these forums where we can all get on video and stuff, there's a lot of good, well, they could be better, but there's a lot of good debates with some high intellectual people actually just having good debates and discussions, and it's available for people like me to view it whenever. So I like that there's more discussion happening and more people able to view it, and I just feel like it's becoming part of the culture, and hopefully in a good way where we can be open to discussing more ideas, and that will lead to growth rather than us just staying with our prejudices and maybe wrong ideas and just not really inspiring learning and growth and communication. So I really like that's becoming part of the culture, and we're getting more of that. And for personally, because I enjoy it, but also because I think it's gonna have good effects on our society and stuff. So Jubilee says 2010, but I wonder when they really started with these kind of yeah where they have 20 versus 1 or 25 versus 1 or pro Musk, anti Musk, or pro vax or anti vax or whatever, vax, or 6 women and 1 man, find the man, just different kind of interesting. Let's see when they started this. It's got to be more recent. Yeah. Oh. Okay, we have a middle ground here from 6 years ago. So that would be 2019. So right before the pandemic, and right around the time the pandemic hit, they started doing this. So shout out to Jubilee. They provide good content, and Yeah, I enjoyed them. They had a Stephen A. or the Skip Bayless one was really good. The Jordan Peterson was really big recently. Did they take that one down? Oh, hold on. No, they didn't. Okay. Yeah, I know that one got a lot of. Ooh, look at the views on that one too. 5.4 mil. So yeah. Anyway, if you haven't checked out Jubilees, check them out. They have a lot of good stuff and good type of videos. But I said we're gonna get right into this one, so let's do it. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome. Who'd like to go first?
Yeah. Objectively, IQ. I think that's all I really need to say for my argument. I mean, whether you agree with what he's doing or not, objectively, his IQ would state that he is a genius. I think that's argument done and dusted right there.
Yeah, the prompt of him being a genius, to me, we know that there are mad geniuses, there are evil geniuses, there are just neutral people. But Elon Musk, we're talking about the ability to receive information, act on information, juggle the amount of balls that he juggles. You could argue he doesn't always do it perfectly. But this isn't about his virtue or his character. This is about whether or not he has a higher intellect than the average person. He's a genius. He's just not necessarily the best of people.
Yeah, I think when we're analyzing intelligence, it's important to consider what that actually means. So can he...
I forgot what the thing is when, like, if someone comes forward, does that mean he agrees with what he just heard, or he's heard something that changed his mind, or what? I forgot kind of what the significance is if you come in halfway, or like what when the other people come in and kind of what that means. It might not always mean the same thing, but I'm interested to see why he
analyze highly technical and highly theoretical questions. Yes, he has demonstrated that time and time again. When he interviews people for his company, he launches a litany of super highly technical questions at them, which he himself understands, and he's able to do that in many, many different industries. And he's able to innovate around regulations and processes that other people...
Hold it. Here we go. Thing one. Hold on, what am I doing here? Hold on. Did Elon, sorry, I got sidetracked with something. Huh, okay, he did. Doesn't look like he did get the COVID vaccine, but I was wondering if he's a freaking genius, then how come he didn't see that he was getting duped by that one, but maybe he did. Oh, okay, no, he did get the COVID vaccine. So he's such a genius, he couldn't even see what many other people saw, that the COVID vaccine was like not what they were saying, and that it wasn't helpful, and that they didn't have any. Here's the long and short of the COVID vaccine. They rushed it out, and they told you, the government and the authorities told you, they use a new kind of technology, mRNA, that they never used before. So fastest developed vaccine, new kind of technology to do it. And because it's the fastest one pushed out and it's brand new type of technology, and y'all basically, we all were here when COVID, the virus hit, and we were all witnessing that it was brand new. And then they started working on the vaccine. So it's like we were all paying close attention because it was a friggin' pandemic. We were all paying close attention, and y'all didn't start working on this beforehand, or that would be weird. So y'all started once the virus hit. The vaccine got made in less than a year. Therefore, there could be no trials. There could be no testing. There could be no evidence of what it did, because it was brand new and y'all just made it and y'all rushed it out. So there was no evidence of what it could do because they had no time to test it. So just going off of that stuff right there were people at the time that knew that and knew not to take the COVID vaccine. If Elon couldn't figure that out, and me, a non-friggin' genius, and other people that were not geniuses could figure that out at the time, how come Elon, a fucking genius, couldn't figure out that the COVID vaccine wasn't going to be helpful at that time and wasn't good to take? How come he couldn't figure that out? And I have another thing about Elon that he, like, in recent history where it's that I'll see if someone else brings it up, and there'll be a good time for me to chime in. But if not, I'll bring it up kind of maybe towards the end. And I know I've talked about it in streams, but yeah, I have another thing of an example of something Elon didn't catch in the recent past that really brings into the question of like, okay, how much of a genius is he? So let's continue.
People would otherwise feel constrained by. So I think in practice and in theory, he is a genius.
I mean, when you just look at the breadth, the amount of companies he's created, all successful, all in completely different areas, and the fact that maybe you could say Benjamin Franklin is ahead and Leonardo da Vinci is probably still up there, but I think he's in the top 5, and I felt he was going to be in the top 5 for a long time of most innovative, incredible people of all time. But you know, when you put that genius in the free market, this is what you get, and you get someone that is affecting the world in so many different.
What has he done that's so damn impressive? I don't believe in the space shit, so you can just miss me with that. That's a whole other debate. But like, what the fuck has he done that's so crazy and innovative? Creating a company or a bunch of companies doesn't mean you're a genius. It means something, but it doesn't mean you're a genius.
I mean, I can't remember just studying like, wait, he did this company. I can't even remember all the companies that he's created, and he's constantly doing more. And he's not scary, but we'll get into that later. Like, people think he's scary.
No, he's not scary. He's a fucking retard.
I mean, again, you're in the free market. We're not in the government. He's in the free market. But anyway.
Got it. So you joined us after a little belatedly, I should say. What brought you over?
You had me at evil genius. That's where you got me. I think that he's an incredible marketer. He's done so much while doing so little. That there is intelligence to what he's doing. If you look at his history, for me, it's not striking of something I would want to emulate. But you can't deny that he's been remarkably successful in ways that a lot of, really nobody else has.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What do you mean by he's done so little?
Yeah, he really not done the least. Woo! I can't wait to hear this guy.
Most of his accomplishments he didn't do. Most of the things we credit him for, he didn't do. He didn't found PayPal. He sued to get his name on the letterhead.
That's not true.
He didn't find Tesla. Found Tesla. He sued to get his name. Or excuse me, you're right. Actually, he didn't sue to get his name on the letterhead. It was part of his agreement.
They have a fact checker thing over here. Musk didn't found Tesla. He invested millions, became chairman of the board, and then CEO. Okay.
But he wasn't a founder in any of these places where he's been. However, he's figured out a way to.
He wasn't a founder of PayPal, but he joined later. Okay.
Get the general American public to think, oh my God, Elon Musk invented these things.
Let's go ahead and bring over the disagreeers.
So I'll start real quick. I heard somebody say above average intelligence, and something I'm not contending is that Elon might be a smarter guy. I don't know him personally. Fair. I've seen him speak on a lot of things, and he has a very high vocabulary, and he clearly knows a little bit about, obviously, the inner workings of his company. Now, where I'm seeing a lack of genius intellect, or intelligence, we might say, is when you torch your company, who at the pinnacle of December was at the highest evaluation that it ever was, and now it's down 71%. This is unprecedented when we're looking at especially auto manufacturers. So if you take the losses of Tesla since December in 4 months, that is more than the entire entity of Toyota, of BMW, of Ferrari, of F1.
Can I ask
that is insane, and that's not a genius move.
What big moment has happened since December, though? Yeah, I guess that's my thing. Is like we've seen a big thing that's happened since December that could very much contribute to those drop in prices, i.e., him being very involved in the current president's administration. Yeah, I think, but I do agree. That's fair. I'm fair and analyze. I mean, you analyze that very well. True, it is unprecedented how big of a plummet. But I think that's like just saying it at that. And maybe you were getting to that. Maybe I cut you off. I apologize if I did.
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. I think that saying that his involvement in politics is a little bit of an easy answer. Fair. Definitely, that's ruined the reputation, especially with a majority of his consumer base. And when you are the head of a company, playing to who your customers are is an important part of delivering what they want. So yeah, the top 10 blue estates were all Tesla fiends. They love Tesla. True. And now you've alienated them when you've said Democrats are Satanists that are helping the cabal. Like, that is not something that's helping.
But maybe he's just a genius at also tanking companies. Like, he can build them up, and nobody does it.
But going back into that, I don't think politics is the only answer for why his evaluations have plummeted. Yeah. It's also lack of foresight. So talking about someone who's a genius or has this high level of intellect, when you're promising fully self-driving cars year after year for the past decade and haven't delivered on that, investors are starting to notice you might be full of shit. And that's something that is important when you are.
Yeah, real talk.
the head of a company is that you keep over-promising and giving all this confidence, and don't worry, guys, we'll be in Mars in 4 years. I guarantee that. And you don't deliver on
Oh, this guy's bringing out some of the big guns. He kind of brought it up now, and I've said it, and I don't want to forget about it later or whatever, and I can expound later more if they bring up another good point that ties into this or whatever. And I've laid it out before, but I'm gonna lay it out again. If Elon's such a freaking genius, I didn't even think of the COVID thing before, but he didn't guess right on the COVID thing, which was easy to do if you're a freaking genius. And the other thing is Trump. Elon Musk did not support Trump until the middle of last year. I've talked about it a couple times, but there was this interview with Don Lemon and Elon Musk, and everyone was trashing Don Lemon at the time because that's a popular thing to do. But Don Lemon actually did his journalistic duties during that interview and was asking Elon the good, hard questions about, are you supporting Trump? Are you going to fund Trump? All this stuff about, are you going to support his presidency? And are you going to endorse him? And are you giving him money? And all this stuff. And Elon was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not going to support him. I'm not blah, 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 blah. And within 6 months, I'll be damned if he didn't start supporting Trump. So either A, he lied during the Don Lemon thing, or B, he changed his mind within 6 months of and it would have been sooner than that, really, when election was. So within a few 4 months, maybe he changed his mind. But really, he didn't change his mind that soon. But let's say even when the Don Lemon interview thing, he lied and he knew he was going to support Trump. He wasn't supporting Trump the first time. He wasn't supporting Trump during COVID and when Biden and all that. So it's just now recently, you just decided within the last year or two, and that's being generous, that you're going to support Trump. If you're such a fucking genius, you're a genius. You're so fucking smart. You didn't know Trump was the golden ticket winner and the way to go the first time? Because not that much has changed about Trump and his leadership style and that whole thing of the first time he ran and then the middle time when he was gone and Biden was in there to now. Not that much has changed about Trump. So how come you didn't support him at all during the first presidency? You're such a genius, yet you didn't know that Trump was basically this gift to you, or like the golden ticket, as we're going to call it. You didn't know that he was that much better then, but now you see that he's that much better. It's like, if you're such a fucking genius, how come you weren't a Trumper the first time? It's like so weird that just within the past year or two, you've decided to start supporting Trump. It's like, how big of a fucking genius are you? It's just like, no, those two things don't go together. I'm sorry. Like, either you... Like, no, I'd like to hear a counter argument for why that's not true. Like someone say, oh, well, this and this and this, that explains it. But for me, it's a hard selling point to say someone's a freaking genius that's sending rockets to space and all this kind of crazy stuff, that he's like a genius. I don't think people really put the emphasis on how smart you are when that title is on you. Like, if there was average everyday citizens that can see through these things, a genius surely should have been able to see through them. But, that's my point of view on the whole Trump thing and Elon joining Trump super late. And I'd like to hear like a counter argument for that. So maybe there'll be one presented here, or maybe there'll be something they talk about with that where I can add on more. But that's kind of my thing. The Elon got duped by the COVID vaccine and he got duped by Trump. So how much of a fucking genius is he?
on any of those promises, yeah, people are going to say that you're not the genius that you keep presenting yourself as.
One of the ways that you lay that out is you look at, I think it's $122 billion actually that he has lost right out of his pocket since he joined the Trump administration at the beginning of the new year. It's been a catastrophe for him financially.
When you have $400 billion,
and for his companies. And so, sure, but you can look at that. You can look at that as stupidity, a lack of genius. You could also look at it through the lens of incredible self-sacrifice for things that he actually cares about. He's doing all this supposedly because he wants to be an interplanetary species, take the world to Mars, all that kind of stuff. What kind of person does this to their companies just for a political project? I would say it's somebody who actually has a higher aim, and money and loss of it is not really that important.
I just want to say, too, the stock is down about 40% from its high. It was 480. every stock in the stock market is down 40, 50, 60% right now from its high. It's
Well,
just like
his is
every other stock.
particularly bad.
No,
Thank you for
it's not.
acknowledging that.
It's
Thank you for
not.
conceding that.
I've been in the stock market since I was 6 years old. They're all down 40% from their inaugural.
But I think
I just want to real quick make like a 10-second thing, and then y'all can talk. But like everything that you're speaking to is like great man theory of history. Is that history is told by the few biographies of a few great men. Elon is this revolutionary innovator, and you specifically talked about it with Benjamin Franklin and Leonardo da Vinci.
Yep.
Like, sure, these people have contributed to the ethos of how history has played out, but all of these innovations in these companies are because of the workers, because of the engineers, and because of the scientists who have developed these innovations. Elon is not writing the formulas that are going to get us to Mars. Elon is pocketing the money that's going to make those people be able to function.
Yeah, I mean, I just take issue with the word genius. Like,
Dude, the way the faces, this lady in the blue is, she acts like she's Elon's wife, and they're like, oh my, how could you, Elon's such a good guy, how could you not believe that he's profiting off of going to Mars? How could you say that? They think Elon's just like, you know, he's looking out for the good of humanity. It's like, yeah, dude.
he's a risk taker. He has a very grandiose sense of self-importance, which sometimes can amount to good things if you have a lot of capital to work with. Like with Tesla, sure, he helped them like vertically integrate their supply chains, and that was good for Tesla. So he's above average when it comes to like capital allocation, but part of being a genius should be knowing your limitations.
I can't help but notice in this conversation right now, on the one hand, when we were talking about being a founder of a company, there is a definition and then there's a connotation.
Yeah.
You all were very happy
I agreed
with the
with him about the founder. No, I agreed
but
with the
now
founder. I
that
agree
we're
with
talking about,
I agree with the
not
definition.
everyone did.
No crosstalk.
But now when we're talking about what it means to be a genius, and the definition of genius is also much more highly contested than the definition of what is a founder, whether your names are in the articles of incorporation, whether you were on the initial board of trustees, however large your company might have been, whether you had the initial idea, that's very separate than what it means to be a genius. Like we can agree that maybe Elon Musk is very good at investing money. He's very good at finding engineers for his projects. We've seen that throughout all of his companies. There's no doubt about that he's smart, that he might have some intelligence.
But
Although
genius?
even throughout school, his grades were low, just like they were for a lot of other people. We would actually assign the title of genius to, infamously, Albert Einstein. But to say that he's somehow so far ahead of the curve, historical example, invention of the printing press. There were at least 3 or 4 or 5 people across Europe who were simultaneously working on it who had no idea that each other were doing it. Electric vehicles were in the Jetsons. It was not an
but they were
initial
dead.
original
They were
idea.
dead by the time
That's
Elon Musk
about
came
investing
around.
into Tesla. That is not about having the intellect and
but
genius
he-
to design
He
an electric
understood
engine.
what was going to be valuable in an electric car. People looked at electric
Did he
cars
design the
like
electric
they
car?
were golf
Did he
carts.
design the electric car?
He designed
That's
a
yes
lot
or
of the
no.
aspects of Tesla.
So-
he absolutely did.
The only
He
thing-
made it a luxury
the only-
sports car.
The only patent that he holds for Tesla is the shape of the charging port. He owns no patents. He designed nothing but the charging port.
doesn't matter. We
and
have
every
well
year,
It doesn't matter. It's like if he's a genius, he's not creating anything though. Y'all are saying he has all these businesses as a piece of evidence that he's a genius, but it's like there's a lot of people that have a lot of businesses that are not geniuses. And if he's not designing any of these things in these companies like a car company, the SpaceX, Twitter, PayPal, if he's not designing anything important or critical to any of these things, that loses a lot of weight as a supporting argument that he's a genius.
every year
That
they have
does matter.
hold on real
Watch
quick.
out.
Every year they have the same argument. Hey, let's make a self-driving car to be a taxi with no steering wheel. And he wants that. And everybody's like, that's impractical.
Are they not launching in Austin right now?
He says it. He's been saying that for 10
They're
years.
literally launching right now.
They said that 10 years ago. We don't know if they're actually going to come through. The point is, objectively, Elon Musk is great at making himself a lot of money.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact information.
think
Understand
so.
the fact. SA way to
The next prompt is X, formerly
What was I gonna see? There are self-driving taxis in Austin right now, like currently, not like it's deploying right. What did she say? What word did she use?
or click
What
the
a stupid ad.
further.
There's no steering wheel. And he wants that. And everybody's like, that's impractical.
Are they not launching in Austin?
Okay, it's not launching. It's already going. Let me see. But I don't know if it's Elon. There's already self-driving taxis in Austin. But I don't know if it's, Yeah, it's a Waymo. I don't know who. Let's see. I don't think that has anything to do with Elon. Is Elon affiliated with Waymo? I don't think so. So there are driverless taxis in Austin that are, to my knowledge, not with Elon. So he's falling behind and making it like, she's like, it's launching right now. It's like, well, they've already got driverless taxis in Austin. We don't need, like, he's behind then, basically what I'm hearing from that. Let's get to the next topic. Oh, right here.
Under Musk.
On this episode. Now, let's get into it.
The next prompt is, X, formerly Twitter, got worse under Musk. All right. These agreeers.
I should know about this, but I'm just not on X/Twitter like that, like at all. So I have no clue. But if y'all are watching this, y'all get in the comments and let me know if y'all have opinions on if Twitter is better or worse with Elon. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say.
We're so excited. Invite you over. You're already so excited to talk. Who's going to go first?
For me, the reason I came up is I think the reason it's worse now is it's now politicized as much as I want it to not be. It is a tool for, and even on my side as a conservative, I mean, it is a talking point for us as this is our freedom of speech here. I don't like that. It's not what social media is for. It's meant for us to connect and just get to know each other, learn more about each other. It's not meant to be this political tool. So I think where I do like who is running it
Well,
now.
I'm going to have to stop him there. If you want a social media where you're just adding people and get to know them, there's Facebook and there's Instagram. Twitter is the social media where they're going to talk about politics. It's going to be the public forum. There's going to be a lot of stuff on there you don't like, but I do think it's good if it is this way, which I don't think it totally is, but the way they sell it is it's free speech and you can do whatever you want on there. I think there is good to that because that can be the marketplace where people on the left can say what they want and have discussions. People on the right can say what they want and have discussions. They can discuss with each other. And there's not a lot of ban this, ban that, limit this. Oh, they're saying something with a cuss word, ban it. I think it is good to have different kinds of social media. We can have a Facebook or an Instagram where it's laid back and it's about, you know, pictures of your family and having college friends on there or whatever, and that's Facebook. And you have an Instagram where it's for the younger crowd. But I think it's good to have different social medias for different purposes. And I like that, even though I'm not on there, and I probably should be, and I get something out of it, being that I like discussions and all that kind of thing. But I think it's good to have a place that's like the public forum where we can have these hard discussions and everybody can have free speech within reason. I think that's another topic if it's totally free speech and if that's even a good thing. But I think it's a good thing to have social media where we're having discussions and it's not just to reconnect with people, as he's saying. So I think it's good to have that type of social media forum.
This is our freedom of speech here. I don't like that. It's not what social media is for. It's meant for us to connect and just get to know each other, learn more about each other. It's not meant to be this political tool. So I think where I do like who is running it now, and I agree with the ideas behind as to why he wanted to do it, and but I think for me, what ruined it is you can't talk about X or Twitter. It's even that thing where we have to say X and Twitter, all that. Like, you can't talk about it without it being more than just a social media thing. And I think that's what ruined the whole root of it. Like, that crumbled it for me. That's why I personally don't use it. I don't care who's behind it.
It's not just that, but like it's unusable. The amount of bots on there when you're looking at replies, the amount of just spamming anti-Semitic and racist and sexist, like just straight up slurs, where before on Twitter, sure, there might have been some issues with the algorithm, but at this point, it's like such a free-for-all that 90% of the traffic you see isn't even real people. And then at that point, it's like, how much are we amplifying certain movements, making them look bigger than they actually are?
I've never understood this perspective because I've been on Twitter since it originated, and I have never seen any vile, like, out of proportion sort of anti-Semitism, bigotry on my Twitter timeline. I just don't.
You're one of the lucky few.
No, I follow a lot of people. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter. I just don't see it going, oh, now it's so much worse. And to the point, like, I'm here as a pro-Musk person who thinks that X has gotten worse. I think that his acquisition of X was important. I think it was a populist move by multi-billionaire to actually try and pass the mic around to everyday people. But there's a huge problem with what he did with the verification process and the doling out of blue check marks. Making that populist and taking away any sort of discrimination between who is a verified, important, influential person has not been good for the dissemination of ideas and credibility on X, which is what it was for. That was a place where news broke, where discussion was driven at the highest level, and now every time you think you're talking to an important person, you're talking to some guy in his mom's basement. It's ridiculous, and it has not been helpful
I thought
for X.
the Lily Phillips fiasco.
Well, here's the thing. Like, how is someone with a check mark more valuable or important than someone that didn't formerly have a check mark? So that's an interesting thing. It's almost like we're, you know, you got to get back to brand and name recognition. And if someone hasn't built a name or have a brand of being someone that's has good opinions, had good takes, has opinion worth listening to and worth debating with, you know, if you don't know who the person is and you're going to debate with them, then you're a fucking idiot. That's like, I don't know what I'm going to compare it to, but you know, even if you're verified and have a blue check mark and you're quote unquote a somebody, that doesn't mean your opinion's good. There's actors that probably had that, and certain people that were big and famous that had the check mark that their opinion didn't count for anything. They're just like a famous person, or, you know, singer, actor, NBA player, or athlete, or even like a politician. Just because they have a blue check mark doesn't mean they're smart, doesn't mean their opinion is valid in whatever they're discussing. It doesn't mean you should have, like, that's still got to be up to the user to figure out, like, is this person worth engaging with? So, you know, and we need to get away from valuing just a blue check mark, or aka a celebrity or well-known person. Just because they're that doesn't mean their opinion should hold more weight. It should be on, like I said earlier, if they're someone we've seen that has good opinions, has deep introspective thought, has been in debates and etc., and in the forum where you're like, okay, this person is someone noteworthy, like Andrew Wilson. Like, okay, even if I don't agree with him, I know he has a name worth respecting because he puts in thoughts to this, he's put in the time, he's a big debater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So even the, you know, we should get back to the individual, not just relying on the blue check mark or the fame or the notoriety to say, oh, this person's worth engaging with and worth listening to their takes. So I kind of hear what he's saying, but at the same time, I see the other side of it too.
Was personally really funny to me, but if I'm in
let me go back
on X, which is what it was for. That was a place where news broke, where discussion was driven at the highest level.
I still think that happens, maybe, but I'm not on it like that, so I wouldn't be able to say as well. But
and now every time you think you're talking to an important person, you're talking to some guy in his mom's basement. It's ridiculous, and it has not been helpful for
I thought
X.
The Lily Phillips fiasco was personally really funny to me, but if I'm an investor in advertisement, I probably don't want to invest in an infrastructure that's helping disintegrate the profile of major pharmaceutical or other corporations. So yeah, I think it's just really interesting to see that we talk about, you know, the Second Amendment being written for a time when weaponry was at a certain level, and maybe there's discussions about, like, should people own a machine gun? Does the right to bear arms allow you to have a nuke in your house? Most people would probably say there's moderations, with the exceptions of some libertarians. But I think that, like, X in particular is, like, it's interesting to see, is this a new weaponry of, like, what freedom of speech means? Because someone like Elon, who can tweet, hey, I have funding secured to take my company private, and completely take the stock portfolios of people who are investing in Tesla, enough so to the SEC has to fine him, and him and his company have to pay $20 million each. Like, this is an irresponsible use, especially when you are, like, at such a high level of impact and influence, that I think it's worth having a conversation of, you know, does everybody need to say everything that's on their mind at all times without having the emotional intelligence to think about it before pressing send?
Yeah, I agree.
My bigger concern is
that boils down to the individual. Like, that's like saying, can people handle alcohol? Well, fuck no, but we're not going to stop selling it. It's like, people can't handle fucking anything. But it's like, that doesn't mean you're just going to take it away from everybody. If a certain someone can't handle posting everything they think online, or even posting things that shouldn't be online because they're negative or just low IQ or inciting violence, it's like, we can't take away the whole thing just because somebody doesn't know how to use it. We don't take away alcohol just because the drunkies don't know how to drink without fucking it up. So and also the people consuming. If you see an idiot who always is posting vile stuff or dumb stuff or stuff you don't want to see, unfollow the motherfucker. I mean, come on. It's like we're just gonna throw the whole thing away, like.
Of free speech and sort of the previous regime of Twitter and X, where there was sort of this idea that we were all speaking freely and openly, and certain links to certain stories, Hunter Biden, wasn't being suppressed in some sort of weird way. And that to me is more scary, when people think you're on a free speech platform and then you're not. The fact that Twitter might just be a complete populist meltdown right now, where anybody can say anything they want and amplify all their speech, I would take that and that status quo over one where you're sort of deceived into believing that.
I think everybody would.
We still have that right now. I think one of his baby mamas called him out and he just like blocked her. He like shut down her account, suspended her account. He amplifies people he agrees with. There was this one guy.
That is true. That is true. And Musk himself said, you can say something on there that's like terrible, but if it is terrible and we don't like it, or we don't think, like, let's say you do something that's deemed as like hate speech or even inciting violence. He's like, you can, I don't know about the inciting violence, but let's say hate speech. You can say that hate speech on there, but is it gonna get shown? How many feeds is it going to come across? How many eyeballs are going to see it? If I post something retarded and vile or that they don't want no one to see, and it doesn't come across anybody's feeds, and it gets no views and no interactions, and the analytics from the post is no one saw it, so no one liked it, shared it, viewed it at all. It's like, yeah, I got to post it on X, and I guess I can share it and I can tell my friends in real life to share it and show them, oh, look what I posted. But like, if it doesn't get shown on anyone else's screen, it's almost like it never got posted. And Elon Musk himself said, you can post a lot of stuff, but if we determine if we're going to push it in the algorithm and how many eyeballs are going to be on it. So kind of to this guy's point, it's almost like before it seemed like it was free speech, but it wasn't. Now it's really free speech, but is it? It's still not fully.
Guy that was like tracking the movements of his jet, which is like public information. He shut down his account. So like it's interesting where it's like when the shoe's on the other foot, a lot of these free speech principles kind of just disappear, and he's doing a lot of the same things he complained about initially. So I don't really see it as being better even on that front. I think in basically every regard it's gotten like markedly worse.
Now let's bring in the disagreeers who have been itching to talk.
All right, guys. The problem is there's 10 billion things I want to say. We're not going to have.
These are the grossest people on the whole panel right here.
Time for it. So let me make this abundantly clear from the beginning, especially for the viewers.
This woman is all emotion, no reason. Look at her, so happy. Yes, y'all fucking trash Musk. Now we're gonna here to save him. It's like, what do you even have to say that's good?
They're going to think everybody on this side is a conservative Republican. I have never voted Republican in my life, and the people at Jubilee probably know from my biography. I've played 4 times at the White House. I'm a professional musician, and all for Democratic presidents. Okay, so let's keep that clear. Now. The only...
Who gives a fuck?
Thanks for your service.
Pussy.
And your sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. So the only way, if we look at Twitter until Elon bought it, the only way you would think that Twitter was somewhat even in any way is if you went to bed every night with AOC and the Squad blankets and a Bernie Sanders teddy bear. That would be the only way that you would think that Twitter was even... It was 1,000% controlled by the left.
The issue with talking about like disproportionate enforcement on somewhere like Twitter is like, for example, the 2020 election. If one side is disproportionately lying and saying the election was stolen, and then you say, why is Twitter cracking down on the right? Maybe because those people were like telling more lies,
it's
violating
okay.
TOS.
Lies are fine.
Well, TOS exists, right? And it's a private company. And if they don't want like complete disinformation being spewed out, then that's their right to prevent
decide
that.
what disinformation
Exactly.
is.
Yeah.
Now on Twitter,
Let's raise our
we
hand
have
if the 2020
community
election
notes,
is stolen.
right? Which is essentially getting the entire community. You have to agree. Both sides have to agree on a note for it to get posted. That regulates content, so it's not just
Community
one
notes
side.
still a thing? Like, I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen it.
It is.
Elon allows
I saw it for a long
community
time,
notes
like, a
to
couple
attack
months
him and
ago.
say when he's
Yeah.
wrong.
Absolutely. And to be clear, there is something I disagree with Elon on when it comes to X. He should have a firewall between him and content moderation. It's not fair for him to remove journalists from the
Yeah, because now, like they
platform.
were saying, it was censored before by people on the left. Now that he has it, it's censored but by him. So it's like, did it change? But it's like just the person in charge of deciding what to censor change. But that's it.
for example. Like, I think that is a point where he absolutely was a hypocrite, and I'm glad he reinstated the journalists. But I think Twitter, or X, is markedly better because it is the free speech platform. Like,
CNN even had a poll that was 50-50 recently about this.
yeah, and
Left right
beforehand, I mean, I really got my start on Twitter. Twitter really empowered me to get a job in media, you know, because I grew a following, even though I wasn't a journalist or someone from the elite or someone that anyone should be listening to.
When did you start?
I started in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember the before and after of Elon. Before Elon, friends of mine, big accounts, small accounts, would just get plucked.
Babylon Bee, what about that one?
Like overnight,
So
someone would
that's-
vanish.
No, they actually said
People
it
would
just delete a
vanish.
post that had against the TOS. It wasn't just a complete banning of that org. And they said, no, we're going to stand on this business. We're going to be stubborn
Yeah.
about it. We're not going to agree to the TOS. Okay, well, you're not going to be posting.
But if I
until
can
you delete it.
continue.
And then they did, wait, one thing. They did delete it as soon as Elon acquired the org and then claimed Elon released them. That's not true. They deleted the posts and they got their account reinstated before Elon even acquired it. So that's just one example of like people, again, using this as politicalization when it's not even.
Every
Yeah,
day.
So let's
but-
bring it back to.
So again, like I remember friends of mine or just random accounts would get just completely suspended overnight, not be informed of what they did wrong. And this was a really big problem on Twitter. And then when Elon took over, there was confusion about what the content moderation standards would be. And I absolutely admit he definitely made a lot of mistakes in the beginning of that. But to give us the option to allow Donald Trump back on the platform, that was an incredible move, because before Twitter, like the people content moderating, were being heavily influenced by Joe Biden's campaign. We have emails proving that there was a back and forth of them asking to like deplatform certain posts and certain
I don't think that ever
stories.
happened. I think there's one example ever of any politician ever saying take something down.
You
It was
dispute
Trump
the
when
entirety
it
of the
was
Twitter
Trump.
files
It was
Yeah, we
literally
have
it was
evidence.
literally Trump. The one time Matt Taibbi reported on this. One person, Trump was called a pussy ass bitch and demanded that they take it down. Everything else, you're right, there was influence. And this idea that there was only influence on one side. Let's look at Matt Taibbi in the Twitter files. What did he get access to? What Elon gave him access to. What didn't he get access to? Everything Elon didn't want him to see. So this narrative was spun, and they used an independent journalist in Matt Taibbi and said, run with this, go show the bias. He didn't show all the bias. Matt Taibbi didn't tell us that Trump was demanding things get taken down. It's one-sided and it's apparent. And my only problem is I understand what you're saying. Like, I believe that clip that you're talking about. But if the counteraction to that is I'm going to take Twitter and then I'm going to have it, I don't even think it revolves around politics. You can look at those, what are those bubble graph things called? It's Elon, and everybody else combined doesn't have his imprint.
I think I really relate with what you're putting out, that there is always a double standard that goes on between the left and the right. They are always fighting for control of these major institutions so that they can win. Donald Trump and his team, absolutely, always trying to push for certain things to be pulled down, particularly during the first administration. But I think in the background of this conversation is a concern about the role that the wealthy and the powerful have to representation, our voices, our system of government. And it is undeniable, and the Twitter files reporting is part of that, that the federal government, the intelligence agencies, the alphabet soup of government entities are always trying to get into the background of these organizations, collude with Twitter, collude with Facebook, and suppress the views of everyday people in ways that I just think are creepy and totalitarian, and it changes hands based on whoever's in power. We should just be against that. Elon Musk has definitely ratcheted up the volume for the right as he has been in control of this platform, but I think you could definitely argue that government does not have the kind of control
They
that it
don't
did
own
before.
him.
Yeah,
They don't
and I
own
wanna make
Twitter,
clear-
and we finally have a platform where we can speak. Although there are certain issues, like I
don't.
think we should ban certain
But
things off the platform.
Parler
you
was
know?
lit.
If you go look at my Twitter engagements,
to hear the parlor.
you can watch lefties. Every lefty that has Twitter, if you go watch your engagement pre and post election, silence
the same thing
pre-election.
Same thing
to
happened
me.
on the other
I know
side
that's what I'm saying.
before.
You're saying, like,
My
But that's
engagement's been
fine.
flat the entire
You're saying,
time.
well, we have a
Well,
voice, but
small
we don't.
accounts got to grow in that time.
So I'm not a Democrat. I'm not here to combat or defend the Democratic Party. I think that it is really important to look at what government overreach has on censorship when it comes to Palestinian outreach movements, when it comes to people who are a little bit more skeptical about pharmaceutical companies. Like, sure, I can see both those sides, and I completely agree with that. My criticisms of Elon aren't rooted in my defense of the Biden administration or saying that the government was perfect pre-2025.
Doge is making the government better. Agreeers, please join me up here.
Doge doesn't go far enough, but it's a great start. I think for my generation, and the reason I really wanted to be here is because we are being taxed to death and our dollar is consistently being devalued through Federal Reserve money printing to subsidize government debt and government spending. And Doge has been the first real effort to combat that. And specifically
Yeah, you think it was real.
with the USAID scandal,
You're not hard to trick.
I thought that the fact that the media immediately shifted the camera over to these Democratic legislators who were screaming about Elon Musk and calling him a Nazi and a Nepo baby, instead of focusing on the fraud and the abuse of taxpayer dollars, was just perplexing. And I saw these narratives become really popular even among friends and family. And it's just really sad to me that the one time we've actually had someone advocating for our interests, they're demonized.
So you believe that Doge has found a lot of fraud and done something about it?
I don't think they've found enough. And frankly, to be clear, I think we need to cut most of the government spending. So I really don't think it goes far enough. And there could be more done, but they have been severely limited.
Got it.
Can I say mine has nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with liking Musk or anything like that. So where I come from is, Mom, I love you. Please don't hate me. So my mother works in the superior courts, right? They get to work from home 2 days a week, right? They still see cases, they still do all that stuff at home, right? Now, I'm not saying her, but people in the courts, right? There is a convenience to that, where in between your cases, you can do laundry. Go to the store, walk your dog, work out, whatever, depends how much time you have, right? So, but the thing is, it makes it really convenient for you. So I will ask her, and I'll ask people like that work in her field as well. So just answer me this simple as that. Is it more convenient for you to be able to be at home and be able to do your laundry or walk the dog in between cases? 9 times out of 10, they will say yes, because it objectively is more convenient. The problem is, you working a job that services the public, it's not supposed to be more convenient for you. It's supposed to be more convenient for the people that you are serving. And so, whereas, somebody like my mom or certain people will not take advantage of that system, what Doge is doing is basically saying there are people taking advantage of a system. It's not necessarily the actual employee's fault, not even necessarily the employer. It's the structure of it. And I think you can't blame somebody for enjoying being at home 2 days a week, right? Getting to dress up on top and then have sweatpants below. The thing is, though, that's not your job. And if you finished your case early or finished your reports early at work, you would just work on something else. You would just get to the next point. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to go do something for myself now because you're at work. You can't go to the store. You can't do that. Just because you're at home now doesn't mean it should be treated any less of like if you are in the office.
So you're saying work from home policies make less productivity?
Yeah, I just think, in my opinion, because you could do more work you would do more work if you're at the office. You can't go to the gym at the office. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
So I think your point was mainly about the spending and actually trying to cut waste, fraud, and abuse and sort of rebalance the scales in terms of the government debt. Color me skeptical. I think we might agree that Social Security and entitlements are still just going to continue to run. We basically just are still paying interest on all of these things. Nothing is really going to change. I think at this point, conservatively, $160 million, billion, have actually been removed from government spending. That's not as important to me as readjusting the scales on how we think about the administrative state and whether or not they are impartial in how they do their jobs. We are living in an America that for the past 100 years has been misled to believe that the alphabet soup of agencies have no political interest in how things happen in Washington, D.C. and around the country. These are not impartial civil servants. A lot of these organizations do have political aims, and you can see that just in this administration in how they put political appointees atop the different agencies. This is not a very good system, and it robs everyday normal people from more power in their society, in the United States. And I think Doge's main purpose, the main thing.
I agree with what they're saying. The crux of the argument is there, I think everyone would agree, is the government wasteful and spending money on stuff we don't want to spend it on? Yes. I think that the crux of the argument is, did Elon and Doge and Trump, but this is about Elon, did he act when rubber meets the road? What actually happened? Was it good, and how much money did we save? And they put the little thing up there with the numbers earlier, but I think it's really going to take us probably till the end of the year to see, okay, who got axed permanently, because some people got fired and they had to rehire them because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Who actually got fired that needed to? And I don't know, I think it's mostly federal level. I guess all, right? But like, this is where my ignorance comes into play. What part of the government were they from? Like, were they from defense? Were they from, I don't even know. I'm so stupid. I don't even know all the parts of government. But what part of the government, you know, was it from our congressmen that you're paying them less? Or, where is the, like, let's get a breakdown for a freaking kindergartner. Like, how much money did you save? What people did you fire? What departments were they from? And, you know, how much is our debt going to go down? Like, let's get us some tangible things that the everyday average American can understand. Can we say they put that stat up, like let me see, I'm at 2729. They have this stat right here. Okay, Doge claimed to have saved the government 160 billion as of the end of April, but only 61.5 billion was itemized, and they only had receipts for 32 billion. What does that mean? We got three numbers up there. They only have receipts for 61. Only 32 was itemized, but they said they saved 160. So which number did they actually, how much money did we actually save, and how many people did you actually fire, like, that actually stayed terminated, and what departments were they from? Like, let's get some actual tangible stuff. Like, you know, oh, these people, and tell us what they were doing. Like, okay, they were was it a fake department that was used to launder money? Was it people that they were doing a job that really wasn't needed anymore? Like, what the hell's going on? Let's get let's get down to the bare bones and what actually makes sense, and all this jargon that people don't understand. I shouted out my timestamp, and now I don't remember. But like, let's get down to the tangible nitty gritties of what the fuck we saved. Was it worth it? And like, it's kind of weird when the government's policing the government type of thing. But like, let's just get down to the stuff that the people can understand, basically.
Been removed from government spending. That's not as important to me as readjusting the scales on how we think about the administrative state and whether or not they are impartial in how they do their jobs. We are living in an America that for the past 100 years has been misled to believe that the alphabet soup of agencies have no political interest in how things happen in Washington, D.C.
My bad to the people that were in the chat and everything. I appreciate y'all tuning in and giving y'all's opinions and you know, conversation points. I need to step my game up and get the chat here on the screen so I can see it. I kind of missed out on you guys you know, getting in on the topics and adding to it, so that's kind of my fault. But yeah, I need to have the chat up on stream or on the screen at the time so I can see it, because I kind of missed out on interacting with y'all. But anyone who was watching in the first half of the stream, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all's input, y'all getting in the chat, and come back next time if you enjoyed this type of content. We still got the second half of this video, but I just want to shout y'all out and say, sorry I missed interacting with y'all this time, but come back for the next one, and don't be afraid to get in the chat and give your opinion and thoughts and discussion topics. So greatly appreciated when y'all tune in.
And around the country. These are not impartial civil servants. A lot of these organizations do have political aims, and you can see that just in this administration in how they put political appointees atop the different agencies. This is not a very good system, and it robs everyday normal people from more power in their society, in the United States. And I think Doge's main purpose, the main thing they've made better, is they've removed some of the illusion of this, and that's positive. Spending.
Have they?
I hope they fix it, but it's going to require major entitlement reform to do that.
The United States of America has been living in a lie since first Woodrow Wilson with, you know, income tax. Not supposed to have that. Federal Reserve, and that's been great, and technocracy, which was I was going to say in the last aspect. What's an expert? What's a now the next one, FDR, who decided to take the phrase to protect the general welfare and decided to completely change the foundation of America, which was a government this big, and the Constitution to protect the people from the government, and decide that the government is supposed to help the people. If you think the government is supposed to help the people, please leave America. That is not what we are about. We are about freedom and individual liberty. We are about us and the government being, again, that big. So we've come to this idea where the government is supposed to help my Social Security, my welfare, all these things that have destroyed what it means to be American. And so Doge, oh wow, they've cut 200,000 jobs. I want about 2.8 million of the jobs to be canceled. Remember that in Thomas Jefferson's time, there was 3,000 people that worked for the government. There's almost 3 million now. That is not what the founders created, and why we quickly became, in 150 years, the greatest country of all time. In that short period of time.
Wilson refounded the country.
Oh, yeah.
Wilson refounded the country on the belief that checks and balances were something that had to be limited by the expert class. The early progressive era, the turn of the 20th century, is a time where Darwinism is sort of running amok through the culture, and there is just a belief that we have become enlightened as people, and that popular rule by the legislature is not enlightened. It's not smart, and it's not the way to run a complicated society. And I think some of the people who disagree with us would say, we're a huge and complicated country. There's so much stuff that has to get done. And I'm going, where are the Congress? Where are our congressmen who are actually supposed to legislate and run the country? They gave up all of their power to
Boy, they're having some good conversation there in the back, in the shadows. Dude, the congressman ain't gonna do shit. If you don't know that by now,
administrative state.
Feel bad for you,
Doge
son.
has a huge role in helping people understand that, but I think you're in a losing battle when you get into nitpicking over how much money they save, because it's sort of just a black hole.
Let's go ahead and bring in the disagreeers and see what they have to say.
Here they come.
Yeah, so virtually everything that was just said is just completely incorrect. So
I saw you nod.
yeah.
Please tell me.
Yeah, so when Elon Musk says, I've cut government spending, he's either lying or breaking the law, because the branch of government that decides how much money we spend is the legislative branch. So the executive branch can't just start cutting funding for things. So
Yes,
that's
the government doesn't want to cut
number
the government.
one.
I know, shocking.
I'm just talking about basic civics right
know.
now, like the three branches of government. When we talk about, like, he's identified all this fraud, to my understanding, not one criminal charge of fraud has been brought against anyone in like the over 3 months now. When we talk about he's found $150 billion, I think only 50 or 60 billion are actually itemized. And that is inefficient compared to the, people don't even know what inspectors general are. The government is audited every single year, dozens of times, by these people called the inspector generals. And Trump illegally fired a lot of them in his first week in office. And these people, just as an example, in the fiscal year of 2023, identified $93 billion in waste, which is way more than Musk has done. And they actually went through the proper channels of going through Congress and doing audits the right way. This idea that because he's in the private sector.
if in 2023 their audits discovered 93 billion in potential waste, how come we didn't hear about that? And how come they didn't clean it? We didn't hear about them finding the waste, and we damn sure didn't hear about them cleaning any of it out. Why didn't we hear about any of that?
That's good for the public sector, those are not comparable in the slightest.
Did you hear
because
the story about Doge gutting the FMSC? This is the Federal Mediation and Conciliatory Service. So this is a very obscure agency that popped up sometime in the 70s or 80s, which is a optional thing that people can use to actually settle disputes between government agencies. And this employs about 260 people. And Elon Musk followed up on 10 years of reporting that the people who work inside this agency were actually just living off of their company credit cards and doing little to nothing, commissioning portraits of themselves for the offices, buying storage units for their home stuff, some of them living abroad and then pretending that they were in Washington, D.C. and eating out for lunch every single day. One person even bought a storage unit to store the photo albums of their dog. This was 10 years of reporting that they just followed up on and went, no more.
So I think Stephen highlighted something great in his preamble, his monologue on the last time when we were back there. But the main spending for the government right now is in military, it's in Social Security, and it's in Medicare. And Doge is not looking at touching any of these. The military has only increased with excess and
in the military, what else?
spending.
On and went,
now is in military, it's in Social Security, and it's in Medicare. And DOGE is not looking at touching any of these. The military has only increased with Hegseth in charge. This is not something that's going to remove the debt that our country has. We are targeting very minuscule parts of the budget for political theater. This is really to rile up conservatives and say, look at how much we're doing. We're getting rid of the condoms in Uganda. We're getting rid of LGBTQ programs. We're getting wokeness, guys. And it's like, okay, well, is this really substantial when it comes to the overwhelming debt? And when you look into a lot of those things, those aren't just like random things that Joe Biden or Barack Obama was like, yeah, condoms in Uganda, let's do that. These are programs that were approved by a congressional body. And it's nowhere near the sensationalist titles that people will have when you're having like increased contraception in places that have heavy amounts of disease. So you can change the flavor, you change the title however you want, but if you want these things cut, like Adam said, you got to go through the proper chambers. You can't just cut all these for that political theater just to say we got rid of all this.
And I think one of the biggest issues I have with this department right now is the efficiency to accomplish what? So right now, efficiency is just let's cut, and save money, right? Save money for what? How much money are we trying to save? Why are we gutting entire departments that were created to protect people, to ensure that they did have this whole liberty and justice for all? Because if we didn't have that, then non-government entities would literally be killing us. Right? So like when we're rescinding and we're trying to
They already are killing us. You dumbass.
People in the FDA, right? And we're trying to reduce that workforce. Well, yeah, I'll be the first to admit, FDA, not necessarily the most efficient. Removing people from it is not going to help speed up the process of reviewing new medical technologies. We can look through what is happening at the FDA, right? We can look through what's happening at pretty much any department and see what their goal is.
You want to form a committee to review what's
No, we
going
already
on
have that. We already have
How many more
auditors,
people do we
but
need to
like,
make it efficient?
Well, let me say this.
first of all, he did bring people. So he did add people.
Pause. We get to hear from all the disagreeers, and then we'll talk more, okay?
Yeah, let me just say this. I think we have found, I applaud Elon Musk. He has found an enormous amount of waste, specifically fraud and abuse. And he did that by getting into the government and showing us how fraudulent he is. For example, if you have heard of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and you listen to a single Republican tell you what it is, from Congress to Mark Andreessen on Joe Rogan, to Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan, to Elon Musk, they will all say verbatim the same thing. It is an agency that was created by Elizabeth Warren to debank people. That's a lie. She doesn't run it. It doesn't debank people. In fact, it keeps people from being debanked. And one of the big things the CFPB did and does is they try and keep X, Facebook, and all of these social media companies from becoming payment processors that don't have to follow the same laws as banks. And there were 280 complaints against Elon Musk's companies alone. And he walked in and he fired the inspector generals, and then he gutted it. And he did this at the CFPB. He did it at the National Labor Relations Board, where we also now know that there was a...
I mean, they're not really debating much if Elon's a genius, which is kind of the topic I wanted to get into. And I guess we did. The first 10 minutes was almost all we needed. But we'll play the rest of it out and see if there's any more good points on that. They're really talking about if X is better or worse with him, and then what he did with Doge, but they're really not talking about him being, how that relates to him being a genius. But anyway.
A sudden spike of information going out, and Russians were using the created usernames and passwords that had been created 15 minutes earlier to try and log in. He went to the FAA. He was able to go and look at every contract that he was negotiating against. He went to NASA. He went into every one of these programs, and he gutted them. And he made it so that he and his billionaire friends didn't have to keep the rules anymore. And all he had to do is hold this shiny object in front of everybody's face. Look, we're going to cut $2 trillion. Never mind, it's $1 trillion. Never mind, I only cut $150 billion. And you mentioned before, it's closer to 60, but if you want to take what has receipts, it's $32 billion. And we increased the budget by $200 billion. We're increasing the budget. He has saved us nothing, and he's hurt every one of you. By gutting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, every one of you you lost the ability to go when your bank screws you, when Chase comes in and they start charging
Free
you
market is not gonna screw its customers.
exorbitant fees and they cheat behind closed doors? You all lost your
government.
protection.
Why would I pay those exorbitant fees?
Elon. Well, for example, Chase, what they were doing is they were signing people up for additional accounts, or excuse me, Wells Fargo, signing people up for additional accounts, and they were charging exorbitant overdraft fees. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was a way for me to go to them without having to hire an attorney and go up against Wells Fargo, and they would act as an intermediary between me and the government. And they clawed back billions of dollars for consumers. And because they went on and they just lied about it, and on Rogan every day, and every Republican just lied about it, you all thought that they were debanking people. They were protecting you. You let Elon Musk go in and gut the protections for you against the banks. Yes, sir. Yes.
Wait, I have
Yes.
one quick question.
For
You can
CFPB?
laugh when you don't have substance.
No, I do.
I have one quick question.
You worked a case with them, or you had a case?
No, I've just studied this in depth.
Okay, it made it sound like you actually had a case that you worked with Wells
Nope.
Fargo on through the CFPB.
So, Stephen, one quick thing.
Yeah, you
like,
definitely
you can laugh
did.
when you don't have substance. I totally get that.
Oh, it's
I
not
had a question for
You
you.
can laugh when you don't have substance. No, I can laugh at you when you don't have substance because you think the government fucking protects us. It is hysterical. I'll be right back. Get a drink real quick and give me 30 seconds. All right, I'm back. This is something. Let me see if I. My stream behind? The hell? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If the government wanted to protect us, I'm sure I could think of a lot of examples, but the one that's been a kind of what am I trying to say? Relevant lately is damn, I've had to reach for that word. That's sad. Is the whole BlackRock thing. If the government was really trying to help the people with laws that they make and stuff and protect our interests, they would create laws to protect against monopolies. And supposedly they do, but not enough. Like companies like BlackRock should not be able to buy all the single family homes or a large enough portion of them to really fuck up the housing market. So that, because a key part of being an American and fulfilling the American dream is being able to have a home that you own and you can live, and owning your home, and maybe even property if you make it become that successful. But when they're making it harder and harder and harder for the everyday average American to be a homeowner, when they make it harder and harder for an everyday average American to be a homeowner, and there's a company or companies, but we'll take the one that we know, BlackRock, that their names have been thrown around over the past several years, of a big real estate corporation that's buying up all these single family homes and making it harder for the average person to own. If you were the government, you should stop monopolies from doing stuff like that, because what are they, just running the numbers up and then all these people are just getting fucked out of having home ownership? Like that takes away a big incentive of what people think. Okay, I'm gonna bust my ass to get a degree or get into a career field, and then I'm gonna bust my ass for all these years and either work hard for a company to make them proud, or be an entrepreneur and work for myself, or work hard so that I can live the American dream and be somewhat successful financially and have my own home and provide for my family. But when I guess what I'm saying is a key cornerstone of being American is owning your home. And when they're making that damn near impossible for a lot of people, so a corporation can get filthy rich, and a few select people from that corporation can be filthy rich, you would think our government, which has our best interest at heart and is here to protect us, according to some of these people, pass a goddamn law where people can't do that. But they won't do it. They don't give a fuck about us. And I'm sure there's other reasons I can think of too, but that's just the one that's relevant now, that comes to mind, that's affecting a lot of us. And then I think we would all agree and be in favor of stop monopolies when it comes to real estate, specifically single family homes. Like what is the downside of that?
Because I heard what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
That
So
there are
yeah,
a lot
we're
of
gonna laugh
government
at you.
Officials that are being lined by lobbying interest pockets. Why would a lobbyist be incentivized to line up a government's pockets?
Because the government can steal our money and use it for contracts that
Right.
then
Do you not
get
know what a fucking lobbyist does, you dumbass?
So their interests are being taken over precedent over the American people's. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's
1000%.
and that's because they're getting money to profit, correct?
100%.
Okay, so the goal here should be reforming
100%.
government so it actually acts as a body that protects the nation's interests
Yeah.
instead of just letting the people who are having a profit incentive just take over that power structure. Because if you remove the government, which you keep saying, I know you might not be an anarchist, but all of your language is like, I'm done, I'm super libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, whatever the
No,
case.
I'm not, definitely not.
Like seriously, removing all of the government or removing any sort of protective agency for consumers is just gonna seize all of the power to those that already have the profit incentive and have the maximum amount of influence, which are these
What is the
oligarchs.
incentive of the government? Why do you guys trust the government more than the free market?
The government
Please
is not the
explain.
shadowy cabal of people
free
that
yes,
are
it
trying to
is.
The
fight
free
us.
market is what allowed for people to discriminate against people like
No,
me.
no, that is
oh,
a
yes,
lie.
it actually
Oh,
was.
1,000%
It
a lie.
actually was.
No,
Yeah. Before
the
we
government was always the racist.
You're-
Always.
Oh,
it was
okay.
never
so
the
when
capital.
when a restaurant decided
Let me
not
give
to
examples.
feed my grandparents when they would walk in, was that the government saying, go be racist?
The free market cares far more. These greedy, evil businessmen. You're so scared of these greedy, evil businessmen. They care about making money. Whatever racism, sexism they will ever have, capitalism destroys that. If I wanted to start a basketball team and I was a gazillionaire and I said, I hate black people, I'm not going to have any black people, how would my team do? It would lose every game, wouldn't it? If I want to have a town without an Italian restaurant, even though I'm Italian, for example, how would that? The free market only cares about making money. There was train companies in the South right after the Civil War
I love
that
your
allowed
passion,
black
dude.
people to sit wherever they wanted
I love your
because
passion.
they wanted
I
about
can-
money.
I
They
can
don't care
get this
about
from
racism.
any libertarian that I scroll on Reddit, dude. I don't need to hear the whole monologue. I liked what you.
Then why
were-
do you trust the government more?
God dang, I kind of hate that guy now. I'm flipping sides. The flowery jacket guy.
Than free market?
Let me give you an
Explain.
example.
Dude, it's
Let me give you
not
an
about
example.
trusting the government.
I think the whole thing is too. Do we want the government to have a few laws in place to prevent the big companies from just going crazy? Because in a free enterprise, a capitalistic market where everything's free enterprise and companies can do whatever the hell they want, there is going to be like one company gets out ahead of the game and then they have a chance to monopolize and no one else ever can get a leg up and really challenge them healthily the way that you're supposed to in a free market. So it is important and would be helpful for the government to put things to help keep it fair and protect us. But do they do that? No, they put in laws that limit what we can do and that I can't think of the word I was going to use. But basically, they put in things that keep us limited, and they don't limit the corporations sometimes when they should. So they don't have the laws in the right place, but it really boils down to people having a good heart. Because you can have a tool and the person could misuse the tool because they're not in a good space and not being a good person or just not a good person. But it comes down to the people's minds and their hearts, really, because that's where. Let me go back a little bit. I think there was something that was going to trigger.
Italian, for example. How would that? The free market only cares about making money. There was train companies in the South.
Yeah, the free market only cares about making money. But back when there was a bunch of racist people, they did have segregation and they did have stupid stuff. And was that because of the government or was that because of free market? No, it was because people had allowed hate into their hearts and they were fucking brainwashed. So did it matter that once slavery became illegal, that didn't make everybody that hated black people start loving them all of a sudden? No, that's why there was fucking Jim Crow. So it's like, even though the government was like, slaves are going to be free, all the people that were slaves are now free and they have all the same rights that we all have. The law changed and the government did the right thing, but did that change the hearts and the minds of the people, which is what fucking matters? No. The friggin' African Americans had to fight for fucking 100 fucking years to get, and then they had to have the civil rights movement at the end of that. Like they still had a struggle. It took generations to remove the hate out of people, but that's what mattered. The hate in people's hearts, not the fucking government as much. So I think people get into the government's doing too much, the government's not doing enough, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, ultimately it comes down to the hearts of the people because they're the ones who are going to use the tools. And I could flesh that out more maybe, but that's kind of the crux of my argument here.
Right after the Civil War,
I love
that
your
allowed
passion,
black
dude.
people to sit wherever they wanted
I love your
because
passion.
they wanted
I
about
can-
money.
I
They
can
don't care
get this
about
from
racism.
any libertarian that I scroll on Reddit, dude. I don't need to hear the whole monologue. I liked what you.
Then
were-
why do you trust the government more than free market?
Let me give you an
Explain.
example.
Dude, it's
Let me give you an
not about
example.
trusting the government at face value. It's about reforming the
I
government
want the
to actually
government.
work on behalf.
I want the government totally out of money because that's ultimately why money gets into government. That's why people.
So where does money come
out
from?
of-
You want to go back to
out
a
of
gold
s-
standard, right?
Yeah. 100%. Are you kidding?
Are you serious?
kidding?
But can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Wait, no, that was perfect. That was perfect. Walk.
Well, let
Okay.
me just. Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, a gold standard always leads to deflation because the supply of gold is limited and economic growth is not. So when that delta gets bigger, eventually the economy crashes. Like this is basic monetary theory. I mean, like I don't want to, do an appeal to expertise, but like I have a degree in economics and I just don't understand this worship of the free market. It's like it solves all these problems. The free market was what created conditions where these workers were working 7 days a week, 13, 14 hours a day. The doors were being locked.
Yeah, they could
Just
starve and die.
Just go starve and die somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, but-
Yeah, everyone's going to be an owner. Yep, that's
I
going
ask
to
you guys
work
a
well for
question?
enterprise.
Well, while we sat
at
back
the
there,
time-
you guys used a lot of
So
examples
simplistic,
about
dude. This guy's 6 years old.
about spending that.
Oof. That insult was 6 years old. Like, nah, I didn't like that coming from this guy. That was.
Yeah.
Okay, but-
Yeah, everyone's going to be an owner. Yep, that's
I
going
ask
to
you guys
work
a
well for
question?
enterprise.
Well, while we sat
at
back
the
there,
time-
you guys used a lot of
So
examples
simplistic,
about
dude. This guy's 6 years old.
about
did that? Ooh, burn! You got him with that one.
spending that the Elon Musk uncovered. Elon Musk, every time he uncovered wasteful spending, he showed a screenshot from usaspending.gov. That's been around since 2009. Our government told all of you where this money was going, and none of you knew it until
Wasn't cool
Elon Musk
until
did.
this year.
It was a great thing that our government did. It was an act of transparency, and you guys are now arguing that
But
the
how come nobody fucking did anything to clean it up? The government's so honest and transparent. They never fucking lie or hide anything. If they're so honest and transparent about their negligent spending, how come they didn't clean it the fuck up? Get the what the fuck?
government is bad because Elon went to a website and posted screenshots of shit that had already been done. Just because nobody knew that that website existed didn't mean it didn't. Our government, by the way, the Democrats, after 2008, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they pushed for this stuff. They pushed for the transparency, and it was the Republicans who fought against it. It
But they didn't do any fucking thing with it, dude.
was there the whole time. You all could have seen it, but you had to wait until Elon Musk told you he found it.
Elon Musk is a horrible father. Agreeers, please join me up here.
Look, I'm not going to pretend like I know the man's personal life. I've seen all of his tweets, though, and I think that
If you think he's a horrible father just because he has several different baby mamas and so many different kids, you're just, man, I don't know. Let me see what they
he
say.
tries to present himself in a certain way. I think that having continuous unstable families and just replacing fatherhood with money isn't the best environment for people to grow up in. And I'll take the personal testimony of some of his kids, like Vivian Musk, or I don't know her last name now, but yeah, I think they're pretty clear on how he acts as a father and how he is the head of a household, if you could even say that.
Well, here's the thing. We're struggling, and I mean struggling to have a good example of what a strong leader of a man looks like. We're in a time where we can't even define woman. We're having trouble defining what the sexes are and gender and all this bullshit with the whole transgender, and there's unlimited genders and gender and sex aren't the same thing and all this fucking horse shit. We don't even have a good role model or example of what a fucking strong male leader looks like for himself or for his family. So I feel like it's a little funny when they're going to criticize Elon because he has multiple different women that are the mothers of his children, and he's having many kids. Back in the day when everybody was dirt poor in this country, people would have 10 or 12 kids, like a lot of freaking kids, because they knew they would have more workers around the house and that they have more people be successful careers and potentially take care of the parents. So it used to be a thing of the past when we were all way more poor, and like in the olden days when we were a lot more farmers and stuff, people would have a lot of kids. So now in today's modern times, it looks like selfish because you can't take care of all of them, or you're maybe wasteful, your family's consuming more stuff than other families, or maybe like there's probably a lot of ways where we live in a society where people try to be minimalist sometimes, and like, oh, I only have one kid, or we only have two kids. Everyone has this picture perfect thing where they have one kid or two kids or three kids, and they have their I'm gonna have one and that's it, or I'm gonna have two, or I'm gonna have three. Everyone has their number. They're gonna have a few little, 1 or 2 or 3 kids, and that's it. And their perfect little house, and everything's so perfect, and minimalistic, and all this bullshit. But I'm saying all this to say there was a time in the past when more kids was a societal standard, and it wasn't viewed as like weird or abnormal like it is now. So people say, oh, he has all these kids that he can't even spend time with and take care of them. Oh, and he has multiple different women that are the mothers of his children, not just one. All these criticisms, but I mean, I just think we need to, some of these things, it'd be interesting to have discussions behind them as what we do find acceptable as a society and what is the best for things. But I don't think just because someone has multiple different baby mothers and they have more than maybe 5 kids, which is not what you prefer, what you think is the perfect thing, excuse me, doesn't mean they're a bad father, doesn't mean they're not getting it done. And I just think that we're in a time where it's popular to criticize men for like any and everything, and this is yet another thing that they can, oh, he's not an adequate father. This is just another thing they can criticize for him. So even though I don't think Elon's a genius and I'm not a fan of his, this is one of the things where I think there could be healthy discussions, and I think we should maybe reevaluate what a good man and or father even looks like. And I don't think just because he has more than 5 kids that he's a bad father.
I think I don't know. I believe in alternative families. I don't think you need to have like a
Doesn't sound like it.
monogamous like nuclear family in order to have a successful life. But I think that when you're continuing to just see yourself as somebody who spreads his seed for the next root, like aspect of human civilization, like I don't think that you care about the children. You more so care about the idea of offspring.
And it gets to a point, like I think it was maybe Grimes who like their kid was having a medical emergency, and first she tried texting him, then she tried DMing him, and then he just kept ignoring her, blocking her. Then she had to tweet at him and he suspended her account. And it's like, why can't you just help the kid with the medical emergency? Like at a certain point, like Doge is not the most important thing in your life. And I feel like he puts his public image and this grandiose self-image, like I'm Tony Stark in real life, he puts that above like very basic human relationships, it seems like.
Got it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be the only father here. Like, and I have a daughter, so I'm a girl dad, another father over there. Look, it's hard. I don't always understand. I know one thing. I know that like my daughter needs my presence, and I know that she needs an example. And my job is to operate in an online presence. And like I think about every day, like, am I going to do things today that 10 years down the road my daughter's going to have to answer for? And he does something nearly every single day on Twitter that is vile, that is cruel, that is inhumane. If you go,
You shouldn't have to answer for what your parents do. That's kind of a lame thing.
look back at his history of running companies, they're always filled with people who were suing him for mistreatment, specifically racial mistreatment, specifically sexual harassment. And as the father of a daughter, I don't want to judge somebody necessarily how they parent individually, but I can say that his public persona is not conducive to his children not having to deal with their father's mistakes and their father's anger and their father's words towards other people. So I don't think that shows that he puts his children first. It's clearly.
I would wonder if these same people have a problem with like OnlyFans and people that are porn actors, and that their kids have to live with that for the rest of their life, knowing that their mom and or dad, but it's worse when your mom is getting like fucked on camera by a bunch of different dudes that aren't your dad. Like, does he care about that being something? I would be interested to know if these people that have that argument for Elon, oh, they're going to have to answer for things their dad did. Like, even though I don't like Elon and I think he's an idiot, I don't think he's doing things that are like terrible that his kids should be afraid to answer for. So just kind of interested to see if he would have that same opinion about maybe of other people.
Money first.
Let's bring up the disagreeers.
I'm uncomfortable with the word horrible, so that's really what I'm quibbling with. Is I just don't know enough to say horrible father. I really look at Elon and I see a lackluster man, where this is a person. I believe it's 14 plus children between 4 women, who has just been unwilling to commit and to give these people his full time, his full attention, and to lead a family. What he has done family-wise is not good. I just don't see enough to say horrible father. I like what we see with one of his young sons that he takes around with him everywhere. We need a more pro-family approach to that kind of thing. I think that's wonderful. But you mentioned his son, who identifies now as a daughter. Her name is what?
Her name is Vivian.
I want to be respectful as possible, but just disagree on principle. Like what he says about Vivian, he keeps saying, my son is dead. That's really wrong.
Yeah.
That's really, really messed up.
I kind of fuck with that a little bit. I mean, it's fucked up, but like, yeah, I don't know.
For him to say that about his child, who identifies now in this different way, and he's not just saying, my son is lost, or my son is struggling, but to say my son is dead
Yeah,
is
that's a little deep.
acknowledging what Vivian is saying, like the whole dead naming thing, right? Like, I was never that person, I'm Vivian. He needs to support his child in a different way. So that's the story that I've heard where I go, you've really messed up here. But the other 14 children, I just don't know.
Why doesn't that go to horrible then? To me, that seems like
because-
possibly the worst thing you could do. Like, you just, again, adopted, like abandoning your child, just cutting them out.
Yeah, if your child's insane, though, I mean, I don't know.
Out of your life.
Again, I'm
If your
just
child's a serial killer and they're insane, are you gonna fucking support them and say you love them? I'm not saying that's what his daughter is or she's gone that far, but I'm just saying they act like you should love your child no matter what all the time. It's like, it sucks, but there are situations where I would consider disowning my child, I mean, unfortunately, but anyway, I don't know. It's an interesting topic.
I'm uncomfortable making a blanket judgment of this person's a horrible father because of some tweets I've seen between him and one of his children who they've clearly had an explosive falling out. Something's really wrong there, but I just don't know enough, and I don't like making those kind of character judgments.
Yeah, and I don't think he cut Vivian out of his life. I think Vivian was deeply uncomfortable with who her father was, right? Like, she was uncomfortable with him being a billionaire. That was their first falling out. And so he sold all of his possessions and moved into a 2-bedroom house in Texas, and that still wasn't enough. So clearly that relationship has been really fraught.
Sold all
for
of his possessions?
Well, not all of his possessions, sorry. Being dramatic. But he sold like his big homes and moved into a much more modest house. But clearly that relationship is really fraught. I think I also disagree with this idea of calling him a terrible father or horrible father. I don't think we know enough. Like, a private life is private for a reason. What we do know from his biography, because he gave Walter Isaacson unprecedented access into his life.
By the way, I don't want to hear any of this terrible father shit from any of his freaking wives. You decided who the fuck you slept with and have a child with, especially, well, just all of them, but especially after the first one. The other two, he has another woman with a child. If you choose to sleep with him and you see that he already has another woman that he hasn't committed to, that he has a child with, you can see how he's going to parent. You chose to sleep with him and have a child with him. You need to fucking have some accountability and not be like, oh, he's a terrible dad. Well, you had a kid with him, so maybe you should have chose better. I mean, it's a big fucking life decision. That's like me going into business with somebody, and then a couple years down the road, I'm like, oh, this guy's a horrible person. It's like, yeah, well, your dumbass didn't fucking vet him and figure out if he was a good business partner or not. You're dumbass. I mean, that's like going to war and be like, oh, I didn't know the United States was corrupt. I didn't know they were starting wars for nothing. Like, ugh. People have to be fucking accountable. That seems to be something that nobody wants to fucking deal with. Their own accountability. They'll find every which way to blame somebody else, and everyone else is shit, and it's everybody else's fault. But nobody wants to take accountability for their part in the fault. A lot of times when something goes wrong, there's enough blame to dish around, and there's multiple people, and you, if you want to grow, you can say, okay, so-and-so might have had this part of the fault, and they might have had this part of the fault, but of this scenario, what was my portion of the blame that I could get better and prevent for next time? That's something I often try to do, and I feel like these wives who are just like, oh, Elon, he's a piece of shit, he's a bad father. Well, did you know that before you slept with him? Because you're partially to blame then. If you let him become your child's father and you already knew who he was, like, come on, dude.
View absolutely everyone. Elon Musk had a really, really difficult childhood, was abused pretty badly by the kids at school and by his father. He's definitely on the autism spectrum, so he does struggle with emotional intelligence and with empathy. And so
and apparently whether or not he's going to support Trump.
we're seeing is a really complex personal life, like a really complex man that struggles with his interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. Like, people, I shouldn't say I think that's fine, but I understand the nuance in somebody that's having trouble with social interactions, especially when they're as intimate as like a familial bond.
Yeah.
The thing is, you shouldn't be advocating to have all of your life in the public eye. And again, his need for admiration when he already has like the business mogul aspect of his life, it's just in conflict with him being able to be there as a present father. So like, I'm all here for nuance. I don't think that anybody inherently is evil. I think that people do evil things. And I think it's important. I think it's important to recognize that like, if you are coming out and you're advertising yourself as this amazing father for all my kids, I'm propping X around because look at me,
I don't think he tries to sell that.
Great father. That's all showmanship. It's not something that is grounded in real affection. I'm choosing this child because it's the most easily moldable right now. If any one of my other kids, I probably wouldn't bring them around because they'd have other.
I think they have a special
That's why I mentioned
relationship,
on
and
news
there's
article
like
about the last two
yeah.
kids, my biological mom, hence the kid, because I knew somebody on the conservative side would say he's bringing this kid around, bringing this kid to the White House and all this. But I mean, as you just made a point, you can't just pick the kid you want and then not have the rest. That's why I made it my opening statement is to mention how, yeah, I'm sure she was a good mother to those two kids, right? Like to those two kids. But it doesn't mean she's a good mother. You know what I mean? As a whole, that's just,
It feels like we should be able to call balls and strikes on this, though. Like, I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. Like, we had this awful coach named Jim Tom Sula, and we went like, he was terrible. And we went 1-15. We were horrible. Does that mean that Jim Tom Sula's horrible? No. But like, there's not much evidence that he's a good father. He's not there for the births. He's not there around them. He sometimes like lugs a kid around. Just like, I think if we take out the personal attack of it and just say like, is he good at being a dad? Probably not.
You know, the other thing real quick, where if you watch any amount of like dating shows, you're familiar with how dating is these days, you'll hear this a lot. And this is online, so this is not always true in person, but the two conflate. And that'd be an interesting conversation if real life influences and pushes online, or if online influences a push in real life, or if it's a little bit of both. But online, with all these videos and reacts and dating shows and street interviews, you will see women put a lot of emphasis on money. I'm not going to date a guy unless he makes X. I'm not going to marry a guy unless he, my ideal husband or my ideal man needs to make X. All about the money. Oh, he can do this, money. But you'll hear like women even willing to deal with bad stuff if he makes enough money. Oh, he can be fat if he makes money. Oh, he can this. Oh, he can cheat if he makes money. All this stuff. They might not explicitly say it that way, but that opinion has been voiced many times. Oh, if he's fat, I don't care if he has money. I don't care if he's fat. Oh, if he has this, I don't care. The money. My point is, I feel like in dating, women have prioritized or vocalized, even if they don't prioritize it this high, they have vocalized and expressed that they value it amongst the highest, if not the very highest thing. So for guys, we see, get your money on point and you will be able to, that is the most important thing for making you more attractive and giving you more options and better at the dating game. Money. So it's like, okay, well, we've been pushed to think money so fucking much, and then it plays out with someone like Elon. He's not especially fit. He's not especially attractive. Pause. He's a genius, apparently, which smarts do play into it some. Even if he's not a genius, he's very smart. So you say, okay, he's got the money, he's got the smarts, but the money is the main thing that allow him to be successful and get the women he wants and multiple women. So it bears out with someone like Elon, and we've heard it so much. Money. The women have vocalized that they put the money so high that has become such a high priority for men. And as they would say, and I would agree, it's to the detriment because the women, they're like, oh, Elon has all this money. And they're like, oh, that was probably like a key factor in them having a kid with him. But it's like, as we can see from their arguments, and I agree, putting that much importance on money when it comes to dating and finding a partner, is it good for them to be financially stable? Yes. But for you to make it the top thing, that leads to issues and deficiencies in other things. And it's not the end all be all and the number one, like, oh, if they just have money, that's all I need. Like it when you put all your value into that, the other values are going to be lacking. So I think that's a huge thing with the dating game where everyone's just like, oh, if they're rich or if they make this much money, that's all I care about. It's like we're starting to see the drawbacks of the men reacting to that in the dating market where they're prioritizing money high over anything else. Morals, fitness, being a leader, all this other stuff. They're like, oh, if I just get rich, I can do whatever I want in the dating field. So I think that's something that was a misstep by women, and hopefully it'll get corrected soon. But yeah, women putting that much emphasis on money, not really a good thing.
The United States is turning into an oligarchy. Agreeers, please step forward.
I mean, Elon Musk is case in point of this entire prompt. I mean, he is the richest man on earth. He has one of the most powerful government positions. He's trying to get contract for things like SpaceX and Starlink with the government. So, I mean, the wealthy and well-connected, especially with...
Yeah, I will say, like I was saying earlier, the government is supposed to have laws to protect us, but often, more times than not, they don't do that. But they're supposed to put laws to protect and help us, such as preventing monopolies. So I think he's kind of on point here where... what was he saying?
I mean, he is the richest man on earth. He has one of the most powerful...
Yeah, we just need to be careful to watch and make sure he's not getting preferential treatment from the government. And hopefully he's not, seeming that he's like so close with Trump and part of Doge that he's not getting any unfair contracts or anything like that. And I don't think he's in the monopoly type of territory, but we want our government making laws to help and protect us, if anything. And we just don't want someone that's like a rich, we don't want him influencing policy, basically, because that's basically like kind of like the whole lobbyist thing, where the lobbyists are working for a corporation and they bribe off it's like a huge money loop. The lobbyist tries to pay politicians to get them to pass a law that will help a corporation that's paying the lobbyists. So it's just a money circle. So we just want to make sure that that's not a money circle minus the lobbyists, you know, Elon and government, and they're just throwing money at him and he's throwing money back and whatever. We just want to make sure, what was the other thing I was going to say based off of that? Oh, and kind of case in point, Trump basically had a Tesla commercial at the White House like a month or two ago when he had the Tesla out there and he's talking about how great he is and he's sucking Elon's dick out there. It's like Trump hasn't had a endorsement of any other, and maybe this hurt Elon more than help him, but Trump he bought a Tesla for like the White House employees to use or whatever. He didn't buy a Ford or a Chevy or any other kind of brand and have like a big, oh, this BMW is great, it's going to be for the White House staff, and look at this BMW, oh, it's so cool and all this stuff. Like, that basically was like a free commercial from the government for Tesla. So like, that definitely was preferential treatment. And it's like, you know, I'm sure any other car company would have loved to be at the White House having the president talking great about their thing. And maybe not with Trump because he's so divisive, but like, take Biden or Obama or, you know, way back Bush. If Obama or Bush would have went out to the front lawn and be like, yeah, I just bought a Chevy for everybody here to use, I'm pretty sure Chevy would have loved that. But it's like the other car companies that didn't get that endorsement would be like, what the fuck? Like, this is a preferential treatment to like what do we got to do? So it is interesting that Trump and Elon get like this, you know, real recently, according to him. And then now, hold on, I gotta, Mr. Joe Games calling in. But yeah, we just want to be sure that he's not getting preferential treatment. Hey, what's up? About to finish up the stream. I got like 10 more minutes. Yeah. I know. I saw it as soon as they pretty much got out of there. I know. Let me finish up and then I'll give you a call. That was Mr. Joe Games getting on me about not being in the chats more. I apologize to the people who were here in the first like 20 or 30 minutes, really getting the chat active. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all for putting your comments and input in there. And I'm definitely going to get on that next time. So when I get people in the chat, I can freaking interact with them. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. And hopefully I have more content in the future that y'all are looking to enjoy and interact with. And I'll get that, you know, shaked out soon. So let's continue and finish up this video real quick.
Government positions. He's trying to get contract for things like SpaceX and Starlink with the government. So, I mean, the wealthy and well-connected, especially with Trump's cabinet, I think it's like more billionaires than ever before. I'm pretty sure everyone in his cabinet has a net worth of at least $100 million. So when we talk about the influence of the wealthy, they've always had some influence with super PACs and lobbying, but at this point, it's like so direct where they are now in the center of the heart of power, and they, in a lot of cases, are just straight up calling the shots.
That's what I was saying
Yeah,
a little bit
I
ago.
almost didn't step forward for this prompt because I don't think the United States is turning into an oligarchy. I think it was an important principle in even the inception in the first place. You can not just take that from Lefty Mason. You can look at John Jay, one of the founders of this country, who said the people that own the country are the ones who should run it. Like, this is very direct, and the people are complaining about technocracy or being an expert. Like, we're saying that oligarchs are the ones who should be calling the shots instead of the American people who are too pursued by their passions or, wanting a better life or actually wanting to make sure that they have freedoms. Like, no, that might destabilize what the country's about. We should leave it in the hands of those who show that they deserve that, with wealth being the primary reason why. So I don't think that Elon is like the direct reason why oligarchies come to the United States. I think he's a symptom of something that's already here. And I think all of these folks who I've talked to today would agree with some aspects of that, because we're saying all these government agencies are bought with wealthy interests and they're being pursued by lobbyists and they're making decisions in order to increase the elite instead of the popular people. That's what oligarchy is. Let's not pretend like it's a small section of people. You could say the deep state all you want. It's people that are influencing politics with their wealth in order to get their interests over the American people.
So you got me with the John Jay bit, that like oligarchy was sort of in the original intention of the country. A lot of the founders were actually looking back to the writings of Cicero and the late Roman Empire and going, well, you actually want wealthy class people who have a stake in the future of the country to be part of its leadership class, as well as a permanent legislature and then an executive. It's part of the design. I think where I get off the boat is when you say that it's becoming more oligarchic in that power is more concentrated than it's ever been. Oligarchy is a small group of those wealthy interests. We have a lot of wealthy interests who are all fighting every single day in the United States for different pockets of power, different influential areas.
The goal's priority. You could say that the aims are different as far, or I guess you flip-flop those. You could say that the goals are different of these wealthy interests, but the aims are the same, which is that there is priority given to those that do have an absorbent amount of wealth versus people who do want more things like spending time with their family by not working as much, having more time on the weekend. These are all exceptions.
I don't think you could say that the aims of Michael Bloomberg and Sheldon Adelson, RIP, are the same. I mean, these are different sort of really rich, powerful bundlers.
You want to maintain your wealth,
visions.
right? Would they want something like a wealth tax? Absolutely. Would they want something like universal health care where they're having a progressive taxation, paying more into it? Of course not. So you could say that the goals of their corporations or their entities are different, but the aims are the same insofar as people with wealthy interests will prop up both political parties. Again, I'm not a Democrat. I'm here, might be arguing with some liberals over here.
I'm a registered Republican.
Can
I think that wealthy interests in these institutions are what are propping up
Guy in the blue hoodie, you're kind of a bot.
so many of the candidates on both parties. And that's something that's important to recognize if you want to get to objective reality.
So to a degree, I think that it's completely fair for billionaires, millionaires, the wealthy to want to protect their own property. And donating money to campaigns and causes is a way to do that. It's almost financial self-defense. Like if the mob is at your door with pitchforks and saying, give me all of your money, you should be able to defend yourself against that.
Don't you want to protect your interests?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a contradiction of goals. That's what's going on here, is that there are wealthy interests that want to protect their own aims, and there are working class people who also want to make sure that they're able to provide for their family.
Fundamentally, I don't understand the difference between what we have viewed historically as an oligarchy and now. J.D. Vance was bought. There's no question about that. He wasn't on a short list of VP candidates. They went to San Francisco, they raised a bunch of money, they came back, and he was bought. Every one of these VC tech guys, every one of them, if you can look into this, Curtis Yarvin is a great name for you to know. Sure. They all want to be oligarchs. They all want technocracy. They're investing in private cities. They want to privatize our entire government. Look at America, look at Russia. I think almost everybody agrees Russia's an oligarchy. What's the difference?
The Russian example is really
real quick.
interesting.
They vote, the votes don't count. Yeah. The richest 12 people in Russia make all the decisions, write all the bills. Who writes all of our bills? Rich people. They just have a congressman sign their name to it. Fundamentally, I don't see the difference. And if you look from the introduction of trickle-down economic...
How can you be a registered Republican and this is so interesting where people are starting to come out of the system and starting to see some truth, but they don't see all of it. And it's like they have such a good argument that I would agree with. Be like, oh wow, you get what's going on, and then they talk about something else like, oh, never mind. You don't get it. It's so interesting where they can see the truth in one area, but then in the other area they're still locked into the system. And but it is good because you're starting to see more and more people become. Even if they only get it right in one area, I guess it's better than none. But it's just it's hard on this panel to tell who's a Republican and who's a Democrat, because you'll hear someone make a good, coherent argument, and then they'll turn around and make a dumb one, and you're like, what the heck? Usually, I mean, both sides make good arguments with different topics, but usually with a certain topic, you can tell, okay, based on said topic, if this guy's a Republican, he's going to say this, and if this guy's a Democrat, he's going to say this. And with this thing, which is a good thing, I think, I've had a hard time determining who's what. And maybe that's me being a little rusty and not being up with the times as much. But I think it's also a sign of the times where people are getting more and more educated and they're starting to finally see through some of the stuff. It's just shocking when he's like, yeah, it's been this way. It's been, JD was bought and paid for, but yet I'm a registered Republican. It's like, why? What? Why? What the fuck are you, like, why are you voting still? Like,
in 82 until now, wealth inequality is bills. Rich people, they just have a congressman
yeah,
sign
he's saying the rich people write the bills and then they bribe the congressman, or they have the congressman sign it and do it. So, but it's still the rich people. It's like, you know what's going on. Like, why do you still vote? What the fuck? Like, why are you still supporting? It's like so interesting to see people see part of the jig, but not the whole thing.
To it. Fundamentally, I don't see the difference. And if you look from the introduction of trickle-down economics in 82 until now, wealth inequality is just, boom, skyrocket.
The mention of Russia is important because in most U.S. news coverage, when we hear that word, if it's not Bernie Sanders saying oligarchy, it's discussion of Russian oligarchs because of news coverage. And since the fall of the Soviet Union, what you had was this huge amount of industrialists who bought up all of the collapsed rubble of the Soviet Union, became super wealthy in different areas, you know, steel, engineering, manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. As Putin consolidates power, he does not surround himself with the oligarchs for joint decision making. He has them stand down. He allows them to stay wealthy if they stay out of his way. And so what they have is this protected wealthy class who do control a lot, but they are not involved in Putin's day-to-day. That actually is a little bit of a misperception. They don't control him. He's given them permission to exist. And that's very different from what we have in the United States, where the wealthy and billionaires here are fighting the government every single day, depending on who's in charge.
That's happening in Russia too. I mean, with all due respect, like, he has gotten rid of people who fought against him. The Russian oligarchs control the economy, and Vladimir Putin controls foreign policy. But if you can go read about Bill Browder, who was given a red nose. He went and he uncovered all of this. He showed how Vladimir Putin allows these oligarchs to swallow up company after company after company, and they are the ones making the economic decisions, which is exactly what's happening here. Trump brought them into the cabinet to make the economic decisions while he sits back and does the stuff he cares about.
And taking it back to U.S. policy, like, do you think it's justified that Bill Gates has absorbed so much of the agricultural land?
No.
In the country? Yes. Thank you.
Good point.
Someone's agreeing with me. Do you agree?
That's the downside of capitalism.
Do you agree? Exactly.
Common ground here. Yeah, like, that's the thing. Capitalism is good, but to a point. If you just let it go unchecked, it's going to have problems. So we need to have capitalism, but it needs to have some boundaries. And the government, like, puts boundaries that we don't like, and then when there's a monopoly, they let it run free. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I'm trying to think of a boundary they put on us that's not good and that doesn't help. And then, like, overtaxing is the one that I can think of right now, where there's tons of government waste and they overtax us, and that's not a boundary, though. I'm trying to think of a good boundary they put on us that's not. I'm sure I'll think of it as soon as I end the stream. But a boundary I wish, and I think a lot of what would push is, like I was saying, a boundary I wish they would put, and I think a lot of us wish they would put, is something on monopolies, especially like BlackRock and people buying single-family homes. But what were they saying?
Has absorbed so much of the agricultural.
Oh yeah, they're talking about Bill Gates again. Do we want Bill Gates, he's one person, but do we want him to be able to own all the land, or whatever it is, 50% of the agricultural land, or 80 or 100% of the agricultural land, or whatever it is? It's like, no. Like, I don't know what law you would write to stop that, because it's not a corporation, it's a single dude. But we don't, like, there needs to be limits on stuff, and it's like the government limits the wrong stuff. They don't limit the stuff we would want to keep people from just becoming too powerful. So I don't know how you would stop that, because it's not a corporation, it's individual, but still bad.
Land
no.
Yes, thank you. Someone's agreeing with me. Do you agree?
That's the downside of capitalism.
Do you agree? Exactly.
That's
what we're talking about, dude. That's what we're talking about.
But we're not talking about capitalism in this whole debate. We're talking about, government efficiency. But yes, in that argument, yes, I do agree with you. He shouldn't, but that is one of those things. We are a capitalist society, but we can go to legislation. That might have been another.
Yeah, and I think we're in a late stage of capitalism where we're inching closer and closer towards not even having any sort of protection, or if you guys don't want to say protection, because I know you think the government's all out to kill us.
Protection.
Representation. Representation, that's what it is. And if we don't have good representation, we're going to...
Which we never have.
Be surrendering to those that have the most amount of influence and the most amount of power. And
which is what's happening.
In a capitalist society, you would say that is wealth. That's what's transferred.
Fair, but is something being oligarchic implied that there is no distinction between money and power, whereas you have plenty of people who have a lot of power in the US that are not billionaires or even millionaires? I'm not saying that the current administration...
Wait. You just said that there's a lot of people with a lot of power in the United States that aren't millionaires or billionaires.
Yeah, I mean...
Explain to me that power.
For example, the average everyday politician that can get elected.
How do you classify power?
Well, okay, so in oligarchy, and I could be wrong, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, it's implied that the people who have that money, like we said, that 12, that small group, they bought up a lot of the rebel and Soviet Union, we use that example, the perception would be that they kind of control Putin's government. Now, I know his argument was that he controls them.
So you're arguing that oligarchy is a small set of people that run everything in society?
I am arguing that, yeah, I guess that's closer to what I'm trying to get.
But
I
I would argue that that's not the case. I don't believe that wealthy interests control every aspect of the entire country, right? I think that they have the most amount of influence. And what I'm saying is, if I have to go to the ballot box and I have to elect a neoliberal Democrat and a neoliberal Republican, and I'm trying to decide what's the economic future of this government's going to look like, it's really hard for me to feel like I have a choice here when the chef's already decided the menu. I'm not making the order if the chef is the one that's decided.
Yeah, you're saying like if we broke down red in America, blue America, no Democrat Party, no Republican Party, but
like
we had the millionaires party or the wealthy party versus some sort of class-based party, that there would be a uniparty at the very top and they would kind of control everything.
I think
but we don't have that because of the amount of actual ideological disagreement amongst our wealthy class.
But we might now.
Adam,
because he's picking, Elon Musk is the only person who exists who is going in and getting rid of departments that are investigating him.
That's a political appointee.
I mean, he's the one giving
I understand he is,
Trump.
but he's the only one who's ever done it, and it's because of the investment he made into Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said, "Yeah, I'll just give you this access." And so now you can look at an oligarchy like it's set up that way, like we structured it that way, or you can look at it in the way that like they're going.
Especially when Elon wasn't supporting Trump just 6 months before the election, and then all of a sudden he is. And Lord knows how much money he gave to help get Trump elected. So.
To tell you you're living in a democracy while you're living in an oligarchy. That's what they do in Russia.
Yeah, but propaganda can tell you you're not living in a dictatorship, and you are. That's the whole point of it. I mean, it's
right. It's an oligarchy.
I mean,
Can we find as a group a middle ground statement encompassing everything we talked about today?
Oh, gosh.
the government needs to be more efficient. Is that a fair middle ground statement?
Elon Musk is
I love your
representative
pom-poms.
of the problems that we all have with underrepresentation, with government being in bed with the government. He is literally the epitome of everything that I think most of us agree we dislike. We don't want one person to have that much
I got a good
unelected
one.
power.
Elon is the product of a corrupt society, and we might disagree on what that corruption is.
No, I think
know
he's
what?
the
Actually, I agree.
antidote.
He's the opposite.
I'm closer to that.
He's the opposite?
No, I'm closer to him. Yeah.
Can I say why I agree? Because it might be able to sway them.
Sure.
I think it's the same thing as we say, like, okay, there's a lot of like bad that's come from Trump getting into office from your side, right? Is that fair to say? A lot of you guys that don't like Trump would say there's a lot of bad that's come, but you guys have a lot of really good politicians that have come with the sole fact of hating Trump that they've been elected to office. Like they were a local activist, now they're there. So when we say, yes, Elon is the product of a corrupt society, for us, it might be that's a good thing. Like we have a corrupt society and he's coming in and he's gonna fix it. For you guys, I think that's a fair nuance, because for you guys, it would be the inverse, but I get what you're saying. I think that's an awesome one.
What about more simple? We are only talking about Elon Musk because we don't feel represented by our government.
Yo.
Yes.
Good to meet you.
Huh, that was a cool one. I enjoyed it. There was a few more talking points in the very beginning rather than the end. And I feel like that's when the most people were in the chat too. Once again, I'm sorry I missed y'all. I'm going to do better, and I'm going to get to where the chat's on my screen, or at least have my phone here with the chat so I can see it. I miss, all y'all's chats. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. This is a pretty good topic, relevant to the times and everything. Shout out to Jubilee. Like I said in the beginning, they have a lot of good stuff. I really like them kind of being a part of the culture where we're having more debates, more discussions, more conversations where people get to talk and not get interrupted and get their full thought out. And this is like an hour-long thing, you know, with the longer form content being popularized by podcasts, but now we're having long form debates and discussions and conversations. Really love that. That's what I really like to do, and really a big part of what I love. And so now that it's become a part of the culture and online and we can discuss things, I really enjoy that too. So shout out to Jubilee being part of that, and what they do. I really enjoyed that. They have other good stuff. Maybe I should react to them more often, and that'll be a thing more on the channel. So appreciate Jubilee. Like the thing. It was a good panel. Shout out to all the panelists. It was a pretty good conversation. No one got out of character or real crazy. There was some middle ground. There was some good points brought up. I feel like my best breakdowns and points were kind of in the beginning. But yeah, once again, shout out to the people that got in the chat. I'm going to fix that for next time. I appreciate y'all. Always feel free to join in with thoughts, you know, topics, whatever. And don't be afraid to jump in the comments and give ideas or suggestions for stuff you want to react to or go over in the future. And I appreciate y'all guys for tuning in, as always. And if you enjoyed this podcast, tell somebody about it in person, because word of mouth is still the best way to spread things that are good and that we enjoy. And yeah, I think I covered everything I wanted to say. Hopefully I'll see y'all soon with another reaction video or kind of a breakdown. And yeah, until next time, I'll see y'all soon. It's LG from Where the Smoke. I'm out.